Welcome back to AFTV, everyone. Now we've got a video that we want to just react to some rumours around the availability of Thomas Partey and his injury problems that we know have kept him out for a lot of this season. He could be back available for the Arsenal. I'm here with my good friend Laurie. We did do the previews, looking into the big game against Brighton, and we built our potential 11, what we think Mikel Arteta's going to go with. But one player he hasn't been able to choose for a long time is Thomas Partey. Came on against Man City off the bench, having them play the first 3 games of the season. But it looks like he could be in contention. Now, people are saying, and look, it's not official reports, and I'll say that from the off, it's not official reports. I don't want to pour cold water on what people are saying online because it's, sometimes they get this news first, but they're saying that Thomas Partey is potentially back in training. Some images have gone round of him, being welcomed back by the squad, but also images and sort of things being said around him potentially being back for the Anfield trip that, of course, we know is next weekend. I think Robbie, don't quote me on this, but I think even Robbie was suggesting that he'd maybe heard somewhere, maybe it's the rumours we're talking about, that Partey was potentially back. So, Laurie, Thomas Partey and his return, how important could this be for Arsenal? Should we start getting excited by the prospect of him playing a big part in what is a crucial month for the season?
You know what? News of his return is great. If he could return sooner rather than later, that would be seismic for Arsenal. I would actually use that word because, we've been doing well without him, but he's an important member of the team, and his abilities and what he brings to the table, you're always going to miss that. And there's, of course, this cover as well for other players. So it's a big thing, big positive thing if he's
It is. Do you think in his absence, where everyone's been talking about Arsenal not looking as fluid as last season and maybe not, last season we looked electric, but there was one player who was, as amongst the front four firing and doing all their brilliant stuff, Partey was getting a lot of plaudits for the way he was holding down that midfield. Yeah. Everything was played through him. And I love Declan Rice. I'm the one who sat here on camera and said he's world class. I'm the one.
You did?
I'm putting so much stock behind Declan Rice. But that you can be world class, and yet there are other things that certain players do better. Thomas Partey, when he's at his best, for me, is a smoother footballer. I think on the ball he is really got a lot of guile, very gifted technically. And I think he understands how to control the midfield. He's been working with Mikel Arteta on it for a good 3-4 years now. And I just wonder if maybe Arsenal losing that little bit of creativity and flair going forward is partly down to not having a Thomas Partey there who just play makes, if you know what I mean.
No, there's a lot of truth to what you say there. I mean, it sounds somewhat incongruous, us talking about an Arsenal midfield improved with Declan Rice already being there and doing such big things. But I would argue, let's have a midfield with Thomas Partey and Declan Rice. That
was going to be my next question,
You know what I mean? That would be, that's like... Yeah, that would be brilliant to see. So, listen, man. But I do agree with you. Thomas Partey last season, I agree, had his best season in an Arsenal shirt since he's been here since, 2020? The injuries have obviously been a concern. He's only played, 5 games this season. He did play a part in the 1-0 win against Man City, and he's not been seen since, which has been very disappointing from our point of view. And, of course, I'm sure he is as well. And the thing about that is that even if he does come back, next week against Liverpool, which I have to say is probably unlikely. But let's say he comes back for the Liverpool game in the new year. That's probably a more realistic target. Then really, he could be gone again a week after because Ghana, of which he's the vice captain of Ghana, they play in AFCON. So he'd be on international duty, so we'd miss out on him for a few more weeks after that.
Well, that is true, and that is going to be disappointing. Remember the last time he came back from AFCON, he got chucked in against, guess who, Liverpool.
Yeah,
and he picked up a red card because he looked quite cold coming off the bench, to be fair. So that probably wasn't great from Mikel Arteta there, but listen, it was a Carabao Cup semi-final. We were probably a little bit desperate at the time. But yeah, you raised some really kind of good points about his availability and, just because he's back in training, what does that mean? But there have been footage, and this has been official footage of him supposedly stepping up his training. I don't know, looking at it, what it means, but hopefully, it means that he's making good progress. The one thing about Arsenal, and it's been this tactic under Mikel Arteta, they've been protecting players right up until the point where they're actually genuinely ready to play. Now, what I mean by that is, it's hard to say, but it felt under the Wenger days, Fabregas, Rosicky, Van Persie, loads of players out of injuries. Cazorla, what you'd do, they'd have their time out and then they'd come back and they'd maybe be on the bench for a game or two, maybe not more than 2, but a game or 2, couple sub appearances before they're sort of brought back in. With Arteta and what we've been doing the last year, it feels to me like these players, they're almost kept completely away from the match squad until they're basically ready to start. Yeah. And I think what we've seen with Jesus, I mean, look at his time out, just before the last international break, plays for Brazil suddenly, a full 90, and then back in the starting 11 for Brentford. Yeah. That tells me he was actually probably ready for the bench a good week, 10 days before he even kicked a ball for Brazil. But maybe Arsenal are just being really sure because they know that with some of these injury-prone players, they've got to take their time. And I think you've seen a little bit of that with quite a few players where there's just a feeling of, let's just keep you completely away from it. But when you're back, you're back. So
we saw that with Smith Rowe, didn't we?
That is true.
He kind of came back right out the blue.
What, in midweek the other day? Yeah, you're right. You're right. We haven't seen him at all.
No.
And then suddenly, actually, he's kind of fit enough to play 20 minutes of a Champions League game. So that's a really good point. I just wonder whether there's something in that with Partey where would it be completely surprising if he's basically on the bench for Brighton and then starting at Anfield? That would feel quick, but maybe not when you look at the way Arsenal have done things recently.
No, I mean, given what you said there, it would appear that... I've mentioned this point before on several other shows, is that Mikel Arteta, number one, is a very meticulous person. You can see that in the way he goes about things. And secondly, the way he would assess players, he will know absolutely if they're ready to come in or not. There is a tendency to try and rush players back. There is pressure on the managers to get results. And when you've got your better players in the team, obviously it increases your chances of getting results. That being said, we do need to be a little bit careful with Partey because of his injury record, his history, and the fact that they're muscular injuries. And if you try and push somebody, you know how intense and fast the Premier League, you put somebody in that cauldron too quickly and, something else could pop, so.
But an apologies to all viewers, right? I probably should have been a bit more research coming into this, but am I right in thinking that they actually had a that Partey underwent small procedure or something to take a little bit longer out so that when he'd come back he'd be okay? So again, maybe, you're right about being careful about a player who's had recurring problems, but I just wonder whether this is one of those where actually they've gone above and beyond to ensure that this doesn't become a recurring problem. Yeah. That for me would be brilliant. I know it's disappointing we're not top of the league and, after the performance at Villa and all that, but to sit 1 point off Liverpool, 3 points ahead of City, with Timber having not kicked a ball other than the first hour he played of the season, with Partey having barely figured as well. Jesus, Martinelli, Odegaard have all had their time out, but albeit other clubs have had worse injuries. I totally acknowledge that as well. Wouldn't it be great if he comes back? But he doesn't just come back. He is, we're at match week 16, Brighton becomes match week 17. Liverpool is the 18th game of the season. At 19, you're halfway. Basically, to have him fit and ready for the whole second half of the season, awesome. Really well rested and looked after, that'd be a massive boost for us.
Awesome. And you've got to remember as well, cast your mind back to the start of the season, and this gives you an indication as to how important Partey is to the team. He was actually playing at right back.
Yeah, I know.
He came in. Not that I'd agreed with that.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. But, that goes to show, even when he's not placed in his normal position, he still brings a lot to the team. So I think, him coming back in the new year, in the run-in for the title, is crucial for us.
Yeah,
He's
I
that
agree.
good. He's that good.
He'd flirted with the idea, Mikel Arteta, of, Partey at right back, but inverting. So he had Partey, Rice, with Havertz and Odegaard in front, and you have a bit of everything. You have the on-the-ball brilliance, you have the off-the-ball talent of Rice, you've got Havertz in his movement getting forward, you've got Odegaard, the orchestrator in the final third, and you're going, my word, that's a great box midfield. The problem is you're going to have to lose something either in the front line or in the back, and we'll see.
Even if he comes off the bench in a particular position, you know that if he comes into the team, he's going to be able to do a job. So, for example, been struggling a little bit at right back in recent times, funny enough. Who's to say he couldn't have come in? Because one thing about Partey, anybody that follows his career knew that he's a great duel winner. I think his stats for winning duels is right up there. Okay. And obviously, if you're playing,
but I trust you.
yeah, it's true. And if you are right back, then obviously you're going to have lots of duels. Okay, he's not the quickest, but he wins tackles, he wins duels. Big, strong, versatile player. He can only be a plus.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Look, there's nothing confirmed in terms of actual. And when I say confirmed, I always feel like I'm being harsh to the ITKs that are in the know about this kind of stuff. But what I will say is we haven't had David Ornstein or the people we, I sort of bet my life on. Maybe not go that far, but the people I very much
legitimate
trust.
guys.
Yeah, coming out saying that he's fully back. Whatever. Arteta, I don't believe has addressed it either. But we are in a situation where there are rumours and murmurings that he is potentially back training, and if he is, especially with this nice week break between Villa and Brighton, then a week break between Brighton and Liverpool, there's a lot of time to get him up to speed. Hopefully we will have Thomas Partey back with the first team and playing very, very soon. Listen, Arsenal, with the likes of Tomiyasu injured, Timber as well, we want to add a couple in January to get these players back. To add a couple in January, we could be looking in a really good position. But we know before we do any of that, we've got Anfield coming as well, and don't look past Brighton. Preview will be coming out very soon on the channel, so go check that out. Me and Laura have been breaking it down along with Robbie. The big game this Sunday, we'll be reacting to every kick of a ball on AFTV, so check us out this Sunday. Many, many thanks. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Catch you in a bit.